Hello and welcome back to the Ain't Dead Yet podcast. On today's episode, we have another special guest lined up. For the audience, we'll let you get to know him here in a second, but I'll intro him. His name's Jimmy Wise. Jimmy is a lot of things, if we're being honest. I would prioritize that list, though, and say that he's a mental health advocate, first and foremost. He's also the founder, CEO of Uplift Lifestyle. And he also happens to be a police officer for the city of Austin. So all of those things can exist together. He's our first example of that on the show. Yeah, so welcome to the show, man. So pumped to have you,
Thank you,
back, actually. So
it's a pleasure.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you coming back. For the listener of the audience, Jimmy was another one of the guests that we'd recorded, and the episode got lost, and he's another one of those guests that actually said, like, no, I'll come back 100%. Because I think when you're on a journey similar to his or mine or anyone like us, it really is just about helping people. Nothing else really matters. And if I have to feel a little bit of pain today in order to help somebody tomorrow, so be it. I feel like that's why I'm still alive. And I know that you feel similar to that. So
I was just listening to your podcast with Olivia that you just posted. She said it perfectly. It's the same thing I'll say 100 times. She's like, if I have to tell my story 100 times in order to help one person, I'll do it. So whether it's 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 1,000,000 times, I don't care. I'll talk about it every single day if it can help one person.
And yeah, and I thought about this yesterday. It might have a role in keeping me alive. I was talking to a close friend, and we'll go through your childhood and stuff in a minute, but we just got to kick it off into this because it's so relatable. I was talking to a close friend, and a family friend of his has been in recovery for 15, 20 years. Suffered from anxiety, depression, all these things. And his whole mission for the last 15 to 20 years was just helping people. They found him dead. Right? And it's like, it hit me in the gut because it's like, 4 years, great. I was just depressed last week, though. And, I could step away from drugs and alcohol. Keeping it all the way a buck, though, like the depression shit, it's going to pop up kind of when it wants to.
I say it all the time. It's a battle I'm going to face the rest of my life. Like, I'm going to have my periods where I feel great. I'm going to have my periods where I feel awful. It's just a battle I'm going to have to stay on top of the rest of my life.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think, someone 20 years of work and their whole life's purpose was helping people still like it caught up. So I think that that's a great way to start this conversation because I think it really shows how relevant these things are, even once you've technically like moved forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't ever get completely away from it.
Nope.
It's just maybe not in, the front windshield anymore.
For now.
Right.
Sometimes it'll be there.
But that bitch is always riding on your ass. You know what I mean?
Like, if you don't stay on top of it, it'll catch up to you.
Yep, for sure. So I love that analogy. Yeah. And run with that. Maybe you can make a t-shirt. You know what I mean?
Got you.
We'll do something.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
No. So to get the audience comfortable with you though, Jimmy, can you give us just a quick background of your childhood, where you're from, family life, that sort of thing?
So I'm from Staten Island, New York. If you watch MTV, you know what that is because everyone's from Staten Island. It's like your sibling. You're allowed to talk smack about it, but no one else is. I love where I'm from. It's a lot of city workers, first responders, teachers, nurses, everything like that. And growing up, played baseball, played sports my whole life, had a great family life. My dad and mom do everything and anything they possibly can to help me and my brother. So I got very lucky. My goal in life is to be half the person my father is, to everyone I meet, to my future kids, to everything. Like, he works at the school I went to for college. Everyone calls him dad because he's just same way he is all the time, regardless of what he's going through. Shows up the same smile, will give the shirt off his back, everything like that. My mom, typical older Italian lady, will make food for the entire island, will love every second of it, loves company, same thing, selfless woman. So I grew up with a great family life, played sports growing up my whole life, got to high school, and was playing basketball and baseball. I'm like, I'm 5'9", basketball ain't for me. So I stuck with baseball. And then my mission from there was playing divisional baseball. That's all I wanted to do. And me and my dad had a great relationship, as in he umpired. So whenever he would umpire, I'd go hit in the cage for 2 hours off the tee. And he's like, hey, you want it? Go get it. He played sports his whole life too. They call him Mr. Hollywood in high school. So I'll never say it to him, but he was, every time someone talks about him, it's how great of an athlete and person he was. So I kind of get it from him, and he's like, hey, if you want this, like, you got to work for it. Like, nothing comes easy. Like, figure it out. Like, I'll help you with everything I possibly can. I'll lose sleep, whatever the case may be, in order to help me achieve my goal. So I had a great relationship with him, played baseball up until junior year of college. I went to Wagner College, which is in Staten Island. I chose to stay home, so I'm close to my family. Junior, senior year of high school, my whole team started going to one of my coach's gyms that he opened up. He played baseball at Louisville and Vandy, went to the College World Series, then played professionally in Italy. His girlfriend at the time was a two-sport Division I athlete, track and soccer. So she did all my speed work. He did all my baseball and my lifting. So I had every tool I needed to get to that level.
Right.
My whole team started going, then turned down to 4 of us, then turned down to just me. And I never went out. I never drank. I barely had any friends. All I ever wanted to do was play Division I baseball. And I was in such a bad place mentally, which we'll get into. But like, that was my therapy. That was my way out. Like, it helped me forget about everything for a little bit. It helped me build my confidence to try and help me get past that point of suicide that I was at a few years before, which we'll get to. Yeah. So I went to Wagner College. I played baseball for 3 years and turned into more of a job than it was a sport. And I looked at it as just sport. It's a kid's game. It's supposed to be fun. Once it's not fun, it's time to walk away. So after junior year, it was the hardest decision I ever made. I made the choice to step away from baseball. And my dad was like, selfishly, I want you to stay. It would be a great end to your story. He's like, but you're an adult. At the end of the day, I want you to be happy. Whatever that case may be, make that decision. Like, it's on you. He's like, take your time, think about it, but this is on you. So after thinking about it nonstop, I realized that it's not for me. And I didn't even want to take batting practice anymore. I didn't want to do any of that. I was like, it's time to walk away. So I stepped away after my junior year, and a few of my teammates, like into the fall season, we were at a bar drinking, and one of them comes up to me. He's like, hey, as much as we need you, he's like, say no. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, as much as we need you, say no. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? He's like, you'll see. All right. So like 2 days later, coach reaches out to me. He's like, basically asking me to come back. I'm like, I appreciate it, coach, but like, it's not for me anymore. It's not fun. And me and the head coach had a very good relationship. So a little time goes by. He's like, take a week, think about it, get back to me. We'll make it like this conversation never happened. A few days go by. My roommate at the time was a graduate assistant coach. He sends my roommate catcher's gear. He's like, hey, tell Wise his new gear's in. Like, coach, like, I appreciate it. Like, I'm good. And a few teammates came up to me and they're like, I've never seen you so happy. As much as we need you, I'd rather see you happy. Like, say no. So stepped away from baseball. I did track and field for a year. I threw a javelin. I was god awful. But it was me and my buddy. Like, it was a small D1 school. So they didn't recruit any javelin throwers because you could recruit a shot put thrower and throw all 3 seasons. Meanwhile, javelin up there is only in the spring. So it was me and my buddy. He's the coach, like, you guys are athletic, come throw. So it was me and my buddy just hanging out, trying to learn a sport at the Division I level. Like, yo, we stink, but we had so much fun. So in the midst of all that in baseball, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. My strength coach my sophomore year, your typical power lifter, like huge guy, bald, huge beard, scary as can be, came in. First day, no music. Like, oh boy.
Yep.
Wait. Everyone threw up. We're like, oh, here we go. Best year we had, program history. But it was like, there was never music in the weight room, ever. PR day, doesn't matter. No music. Every day we walked in on the whiteboard. We had to write given, cross it out, write earned on top. Every day, first thing you did. No music. We're like, all right, we're on the football field one time. It's like, all right, not enough people threw up. Bower roll, 60 yards. Everyone threw up. He's like, all right, we're done now. Like your typical powerlifting, scary dude. So at one point, he opened up to us and told his story. And after telling us his story, he's like, you guys are only the second team I've ever told because I love you guys. And he coached for 10 plus years. Opened up to us, and at the end of it, he sent us all an email of like, hey, what's your why? in a roundabout way, in a bunch of questions, but in a roundabout way, it was what's your why?
Right.
A lot of kids I went to school with, it was an expensive school. Like didn't really go through much. Like got everything handed to them. Like didn't really face much struggle. So I was like, hey, I'd rather answer in person. And at this point, I was suicidal in the past. We skipped a bunch, but we'll get back to it.
Yeah.
Like that whole part of it. But I was like, hey, I'd rather answer in person. All right. So I sit down with them after lift one day for like 2 hours, open up about everything. At this point, the only people that knew were my ex-girlfriend at the time and then my best friend at the time. That's it. No one else knew. And my dad worked at the school I went to. So he's like, hey, I know your dad and I know how much he loves you. You should tell him. No, absolutely not. He's like, I'll be there for you. He's like, if you need me to start off the conversation, you just need me standing there, I'll be there. All right, guess we're doing it. Can't say no to you. You'll probably barrel roll me.
Yeah.
So I tell my dad with him standing behind me, and I just absolutely broke down. And my dad was obviously confused, and that whole generation's a little different with it because it wasn't as talked about. But him just being there helped more than anything in the world. And I saw how much it helped me. Now I return the favor when I was finally open about everything on social media. Like I said, we'll go back to everything from the beginning, but when I was finally open, people started opening up to me, and I did the same thing and I repaid the favor. I knew how much it helped me, so I'm like, cool, I'm going to pay it forward, help others. So teammates, friends, all that open up to me. I'm like, you should go to therapy. They're like, absolutely not. I was like, I'll sit there with you your first session. Same therapist, everything. Sat in the corner, didn't say a word, their first therapy session. After that, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I love coming. My roommate at the time, one of my roommates, we went every Monday. I went like, let's just say 11. He went at 1. It was 2 hours apart, whatever the times were. Every Sunday, you talk about how excited he was. Every Monday, you talk about how great it was. Like, this is good. We're on a good roll here. We're getting people help they need. We're getting people talk about it. We're trying to put an end to that stigma, which is ultimately the goal. So I realized how much it helped me. So I figured pay it forward, and I started doing that for others. And now turned into what I do today.
Yeah. It's, there's a lot there, and we'll dig back through all of it because I don't want to miss anything in this story. The first thing that pops out to me that I connected with almost immediately is, and I think this is common for a lot of young kids, specifically athletes. Your first love is a sport.
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone talks about heartbreak from the perspective of like a romantic relationship, right? But there's no preparation for the heartbreak of falling out of love with your sport.
Nope.
And it's therapy for, I would argue, just about everyone.
Yep. Especially the higher level you get.
Yeah, the better you get, the more, because the people that are at that level, they've put more in.
Yep.
And really, like, yes, there's more talent at that level for sure, but there's also guys that have limited talent that just work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the Division I level, you see that. You'll
Yep.
see the guy, it's like, that guy, there was a guy, like, I'll just be real about it. Like, there was a guy that played tight end for us who was 6'4", 240, 8-pack abs, probably ran 4.5, unbelievably strong, but would leave the weight room and go eat like 6 McDoubles and be up all night and doing whatever, you know what I mean? Then there was the other guy that's in the Division I program that his father was a coach. He played underneath him his whole life. He walked on and he earned every single thing. I mean, he earned the socks that he had on, the cleats. Like, it was so different, honestly, even at that time, for walk-on versus a scholarship player. You don't get the same things when you come through the door. There's the obvious scholarship piece that you don't get, but you get treated different.
Oh, 100%.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything.
Mm-mm.
I'm so glad I didn't get a full ride out of high school.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I got to walk on. I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to earn a scholarship at the end of my 4th year. I was there 5. That meant the world to me. It was like, we did it.
That.
We earned it. Earned, not given.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't given.
No.
And so I think that there's a very limited amount of preparation for athletes to transition. Sometimes it's forced by injury.
Yep.
Sometimes it's by choice. sometimes
You
it's
just graduate.
sometimes it's by ability, or sometimes you graduate and that's just the end of the road. And I think, when you really look at the numbers, a lot of people's athletic journey ends in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the hardest thing to look at or to focus in on when you talk about like high school level athletes, I played with a lot of guys in high school that were better players than me, for sure. But as soon as they stopped playing for a multitude of reasons when they graduated, some of them probably could have pursued a little further and just didn't choose to. Some of those guys are still lost today.
It's like, what do I do? You lose your whole identity. We'll get into this with like job stuff too, which I want to get into, but it's, what do I do? And then like you see them in the gym and they're still doing like the same like athletic football program, like running on the ladder at like 35. It's like, what are you doing?
That's
like, yeah, it's all cool to be athletic, but like, bro, you're not playing tight end anymore.
That's all they know.
Yeah. There's nothing else.
And honestly, I'd prefer to run into that.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys I'm talking about are like off in the dope game.
Yeah.
They're doing dope.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. Obviously, I was doing dope too. But it's hard to see.
Yeah.
Because you're like, damn, like, you want to.
What happened?
Yeah. You were the guy.
Yeah.
You were the guys. And now it's like, oh man, it's just not there anymore.
No.
It's hard to see. So, but no one prepares you for that.
No.
No one sets you down and says, look, you're a great athlete. Your journey's probably going to end a year from now with your athletic career. You might want to start preparing for that. Think about something else you want to get into or learn about or pursue.
Or a hobby or something.
Especially with men. Because if you have purpose, there's no distractions.
No, nothing. Nothing will stop you.
It's the most incredible superpower I think that exists is purpose. When you lose that purpose for a multitude of reasons, I think it is almost like completely detrimental to a man's frame. He just lost. Nowhere to go. Just, you can see it. You walk down the street, you see it everywhere. Walk into a restaurant, you see it. Bless you.
Hey.
But you walk into all these places, you see it.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at a man's eyes and tell he's there or he's not. And so I can't help but try to nudge people to remember that through these different transitions in life. You have to find another purpose. It's got to be another thing. And that's why I don't really agree with this message that gets pushed so heavily today of it's okay to not have something going right now.
Yeah.
I don't really agree, because for a lot of us, that's what keeps us alive. If I don't have shit in the
like
front
planned
windshield,
or something,
that's scary.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of that. I'll start creating stuff to be out there,
like,
you know?
What do I do?
Yeah. So I love that you brought that up though, because I think so many people can connect with that piece. The other thing that's unique that I wanted to ask you about, and I've never got to ask this question to anyone, not even podcast related, but just in general. How old were you and where were you September 11th?
So I was only 4.
Okay.
I was 4. I was in school. I don't remember much of it because I was so young. But I know my dad was working in Manhattan at the time. He wasn't anywhere. So he was on Wall Street. So I wasn't like he was fine, luckily. I honestly don't remember much of it, but I worked for the fire department after college as an EMT. And I don't care if you were alive, you weren't alive, does not matter. You feel the pain that every single person felt that day because of how much meaning it has behind it. So like my first day at the academy, first day on the job officially, it was the 20th anniversary of 9/11. It was I'm getting chills thinking about it. It was the most incredible thing I've ever been a part of. So it was my whole EMT class, all the fire probies. So the big number is 343. That's how many firefighters died that day. And even down here in the fire academy in Austin, if you go to the top step, it says 343 at the bottom. And I saw that for the first time when in the academy here. I legit got chills down my whole body. And people were like, bro, what's wrong? I'm like, you guys have no idea. And just being part of that brotherhood, it was like, so it was my whole class, the fire probies, and then whatever was left to make 343 was all active firemen. All of us had an American flag, each one of us representing each person that passed away that day. You know what St. Pat's Cathedral is in Manhattan, the big church?
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a ceremony there. All of us marched down together, 343 of us, walked into church. It was all family members of people that passed that day, mayor, governor, all that, all stood on the sides. My mass started. We all walked out. My mass ended. We all marched down the street again, faced the church. Everyone saluted us, and we walked down again. It was the most incredible thing I've ever been a part of, still to this day.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that question. I assumed that you were going to say that you didn't remember a ton of that day because of your age. But I still think about that day pretty regularly, honestly. Like, it doesn't take the anniversary for it to pop up in my head. Honestly, the thing that I think about the most around September 11th is truly September 12th.
Yeah. Which we need more of now. Like, was it Bush throwing out the first pitch?
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Like, that is like the most iconic thing ever. Like, cool, everyone has different political opinions. Who cares? But it's so like...
No one cared. No one cared that
Yeah,
day.
like, this isn't even about politics, but it's like everyone is... Like, you can't be in the middle now. You can't have a conversation with anyone because, like, I don't agree with you. We're not friends anymore. Like, why can't we bring it back to that day where it didn't matter of whether you believe this, you believe... It didn't matter. It's like we all come together.
We're Americans.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
And bro, with all the division and everything that's happening, and I'll be straight up with it. The division that's occurring is on both sides.
Yeah, oh, 100%.
And there's people that are listening to this that probably aren't going to listen anymore because they're like, oh, we thought Tripp was a Trumpster or what. Like, sorry, hate to break your heart. I don't like any of the candidates. I'm looking right in the camera. I hope this won't make them real out of this. I do not like any of the presidential candidates. I don't think they're good leaders. I'm just keeping it a buck. That's my opinion. I love America.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. I don't care about the left. I don't care about the right. I want what's best for America and our people of all types, races, creeds, colors. I mean, everything.
Yep.
All of us. That is what September 12th was.
Yep.
It was everybody banded together. And you, honestly, if somebody wasn't banded together during that time,
people judged you.
Yeah, you were an outcast in a good way.
Yeah.
Good, good for everybody else, because that day, I think, changed more lives in our generation, the generation before us, and hopefully the generation after us. Because you look at the last 23 years now and everything that's happened, and it's like the further we get away from that date, the worse things get.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that it was perfect on September 12th or the 13th. I'm not saying
the unity of it was incredible.
The cohesiveness of this country was unreal. And I think a big part of that is the first responder piece. I see the post all the time. It'll be like some guy he's running through the tunnel. And they're like, this is the last known photo of this dude. He died 18 minutes later or whatever it was. Or they show like a ladder company going across the bridge.
The whole company died.
Yeah. It's like 30 minutes later, everyone's gone. And it's like, wow, like here, we don't realize how close we are to that happening again. It doesn't take much. It takes a lot, but it doesn't take much. And I wish we could just treat each other
Same way.
in a way that was like, we need to make sure that never happens again, and we can protect each other.
And putting others first. Like, there was one, I forgot what rank he was, but he was on like whatever floor he was on, and they were like, hey, this is an order, get out of the building. He said, absolutely not. He's like, I'm disobeying your order, there's people up there. He died that day. But he was putting others before himself.
100%.
Like, I'm not saying disobey an order, but he's like, hey, there are people up there, this is why I signed up for this job, I'm going to get them.
So I think that's what I know. I know that first responders, a lot of them will say they're in the same group. Understood. But to me, there's a difference between a firefighter, an EMT paramedic, and then a police officer. And that difference, at least from my experience and what I've seen, is firefighters and paramedics are there solely to save lives. Like, yeah, they want to preserve structures. They want to do all that. Like, great. But their first thing is like, I'm going to go save this person no matter what. That's a little bit different than the police force.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I love the police force. We need policing 100%. But I'm saying to me, those two things aren't necessarily the same. Because on 9/11, you lost a lot of first responders, obviously, that were police guys too.
Yeah.
Like it was, but that's what was so unique about it. And I think we forget, like there's so many people that are first responders. They didn't give a shit about their own life. They made peace and went in, and that was it. That was some of their last thoughts.
Yeah.
So we need to remember that. But at the same time, we need to make sure that standard still exists for who we let into those roles.
I agree. I couldn't agree any worse. But I could speak from I mean, I was around firefighters enough, and I just what I want to do for a while. So I could speak on kind of all sides of it because I've done 2 out of 3, but I've been around the third the most. And I think, at least here in Austin, for the most part, I'd say 98%, like that standard for cops, still very high. Like you're not, every once in a while you'll get someone that slips through the cracks, but then they get to the street and it'll show very quickly. Standards are very, very high, as in like, hey, if you don't maintain 80 average, doesn't matter 70 is passing. You get 70 on every single test, pass every single test. You don't maintain an 80 average, you're not taking the final. It's actually that simple. You can have a 79.99. Does not matter. You're not taking the final, which is how it should be.
Right.
Especially with how scrutinized the police force is right now. Like, it should be that way.
Yeah. You need good people in those roles because they're critically important. And that's kind of the frustrating thing about some of these different movements that are occurring of people will talk about defunding the police. If you're taking resources away that offer training or improved like intellectual capabilities, or you give them like resources so they can learn how to communicate with people that might be suicidal or those types of things. When you remove those resources, what do you think's going to happen? More people are going to die. Like it's not rocket science. That's the frustrating thing for me. It's like you can't punish an entire. It's collective punishment.
There's good and bad in everything in the world. Everything.
Every
and
job.
Like when the bad happens, it's not just like the public disagrees with it. Like we also disagree with it. Like that's not okay. Like Uvalde, for example. I don't know if you saw the whole documentary on it. Like that's not okay, and everyone is behind that. Like collectively, like hey, that's not okay. So it's like hey, we agree with everyone.
Yes. So yeah, we're on the same page with all of this. I think to table the police conversation, because we're going to come back to that for sure, as it's an important part of the story. I want to dive back into the conversation with your dad though.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to tie it in relation to myself. I don't think anyone knew the depths, to be honest with you, with me.
Yeah.
They knew bits and pieces, or they thought they knew. But I remember the first time I opened up about the alcohol portion. I remember the first time I opened up about that well before the drugs. It took me a while to get
More
there.
socially acceptable.
100%. It took me longer to get there. It took me longer to be like, oh, my mom's going to hear this. Oh God, I'm going to have to explain and I didn't want to be real with you at first. And so I can't imagine that type of setup where it's like, one, what a blessing that your strength coach opened up and told his story.
Oh yeah.
And then gave you a platform to do the same, and then stood behind you to tell your father. I know you said you broke down emotionally when you told your dad. You said he was in shock to some extent. In that feeling of shock, could you feel anything from him though?
Yeah, he was just more like, what could I have done better? It's like, I promise you, like, you've done everything you could possibly do and more. Like, it has nothing to do with anything that you guys have done. Like, so my dad's one of 8, and like, even all of his siblings, like, all they do is talk about how well raised me and my brother were, how great we're doing, how successful we are. Like, everyone that knows my family always says how great my parents did. It's literally nothing about any of that. And there's one topic that I don't speak about on social media, and I'll have conversations like off camera about it as of now. In the future, I will have the conversation on it. There's reasons why I won't. And when that time comes, I'll have that conversation about it.
Mhm.
But for the most part, I'm open about everything. And it was just like, I didn't tell him for a while because I don't want him to think that they did anything wrong.
Right.
There's more of the stigma and that. And it's like, he's my best friend. Like, love my dad more than anything in the world. And he has given and still does give everything and anything for my family.
And you can hear what kind of man he is, because I know that feeling you're talking about when you can tell that they're questioning what they could have done better.
Yeah.
And that's ingrained in you,
Mhm.
you know, from how you're raised to take accountability. In this instance, and in addiction, and in many other instances, though, it's okay to say, you don't have accountability
Yeah.
in this. And I've had to tell my mom that. You don't own this. I own all this. You did the job of two parents the best you possibly could
Mhm.
with limited resources. You made it work. I never starved. Always had a place to sleep.
Mhm.
I got to go to college. Like, she didn't fail. But a good parent's always going to think, man, if I would have just corrected him in this way,
Yeah.
or done this, or tried this, or if I would have paid more attention. And the reality of it is, like, for my mom, she didn't do anything wrong.
Mhm.
She was doing the best she could. I don't think I could have ever gotten to that place, though, without therapy.
Oh, yeah.
You have to understand, most everyone's doing the best they can.
Yep.
They're doing the absolute best they can with what they got that day. And we're all only just a projection of our past experiences.
Yep.
That's it. So it's incredibly difficult, though, to look a parent in the eye, or a friend in the eye, or someone that you really care about in the eye, and tell them the truth of how deep it really is. And not, you don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
You don't want them to think, oh, they failed. And so I think a lot of people don't open up for that reason.
And it was the hardest thing I ever had to do, because I knew he would feel that way knowing how he is, but like, it was literally nothing that they did. Like, they were hard on me, and like growing up when they were hard on me, like, I knew it was all for good reason. And people were like, oh, you're too hard on that. Like, I'll never forget it till the day I die. So I was like 7 years old, and like, everyone I played baseball with, I played basketball with or against. So like, everyone knew each other. Coach's name was Jimmy. My mom's like, hey, Jimmy, James sitting on the bench today. It's like, hey, he's 7. No, he's not. He didn't do his homework. He's sitting on the bench today. He learned a lesson. At 7 years old, I had to sit at the end of the bench and watch my friends play baseball. I did my homework every day after that.
Yeah, you learned your lesson.
Yeah, very much so. And my dad was always like, if I hear something when I lay down at night, you're hearing something the next day. I'm like, that's fair.
Totally fair.
If I cause that for you to hear something, that's fair. I get it.
Yeah, I think with parenting, because people will ask me, like, how are you going to parent your kids? And my answer to that is the best I can.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, based on how you were raised, all this stuff. I'm like,
Every day is different.
I can't judge any of that.
Mm-mm.
I can't even judge my dad for walking out of the door when I was 5. I damn sure can't judge him for it now, because I have a little bit of an idea of what he was probably going through.
Yeah.
And so there's a ton of grace there, because we've probably experienced some similar feelings. And if he was experiencing or going through what I've felt, then you know what? I kind of understand it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was right, but I kind of understand it.
Some days we only have 30%. And if we give 30%, we give 100% that day.
Right. And I think that kicks into the depression conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So when was what age was your first awareness that you suffered from depression? Like, you actually clicked?
How old are you in 7th grade? I don't know, 12, 13, around there,
Mhm.
give or take. Whatever 7th to 8th grade is, give or take around there.
Yeah.
And I was in a very dark place. Like I was seconds away from taking my own life. Like, I didn't want to do anything. I was miserable. I hated myself. I hated my body. And I was super young before I worked out, before I did anything, but everything about it, I just did not like. It's not that I wanted to be dead. I just didn't want to feel that pain anymore.
Mhm.
And that's what majority of people that are suicidal don't want to die. Like, if you watch I forget his name, the guy that jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and lived, and tells the story. He's like, the second my hands let go, like, I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to feel that pain anymore.
Mhm.
So I was seconds away from taking my own life. And my best friend at the time, called me and ultimately saved my life. We kind of drifted. Life just happened. But like, if I called her right now, she'd answer me like, "How can I help?" And same thing, vice versa. Which life just happened. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here today. So it started in 7th, 8th grade, give or take. She saved my life. And I was just in a very dark spot. Go a couple of years, up and down a little bit. Gets better, gets worse, gets better, gets worse. But like, I wasn't as suicidal. I was just in like super depressed. And at first, for a while in the beginning, it was all depression. Like, anxiety never really kicked in until like college-ish, like senior year of high school, college. But it was all depression. And then junior year of high school, I get a girlfriend, my first one. And at that point, it was only her and my ex-best friend, my older best friend that knew. That's when I started going to that strength conditioning place I told you about. And like I said, that became therapy. Like, I didn't have many friends. I didn't drink. I didn't go out. I didn't do anything besides go to this place to work out. Even if it was like they started a lacrosse program in Staten Island, I would sit there and like help them design uniforms, help them heat press uniforms, like whatever it was that they did. Like,
You just wanted to be there.
yeah, I just wanted to be around them. Like, they were very much older than me, but like they became family.
Mhm.
And it's like, he wanted to go see his old school Louisville. He's like, come down, come to the camp. I'm like, I'll pay for the hotel, everything. My parents sent me down with him. It was me and them two, and then my buddy, which wound up being his cousin. Like, we all just went down, went to the Louisville camp. He introduced me to everyone, showed me around. Like, he was living his glory days where he went to the College World Series. Like, they treated me like family. I treated them like family. Like, they put a huge poster up in their place. So at that point, it was like I started to get more confident, and I was very good at baseball. Like, peak of my career. I don't care what anyone says. Like, dude, I was good. And then things started to get better. A relationship became very toxic. I tried ending it after like 7 months going into season. So now it's senior year. Junior year had like killer season in baseball. Like, everything about it was just, I did really well. And going into senior year in the fall, tried ending my relationship and turned into, she attempted to take her own life and blame me for it. So now, didn't really want to be with her, but I was like, did I know it was not my fault? Yes. However, can I live with myself the rest of my life if that happens?
Yep.
No. So now I was stuck in the situation for another couple of years
Mm.
where it's like, I'm trying to do the right thing, where it's like trying to be respectful, where it's like, hey, I don't want to be in this, but it's like, sorry, you're stuck.
That guts me because I've never talked about this on here, but the last relationship I got in before I got sober, I knew early on it probably wasn't good. I was aware. But she didn't have anyone. Like, she was adopted. Her adoptive mother had passed away. Her adoptive father didn't want anything to do with her. Her mother was birth mother was in a different country. She had a brother. He overdosed and passed away while we were together. And I couldn't walk away from that, bro. I just couldn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't in me. And I'd made peace with it. I was like, okay, if this is my life, this is my life.
Yep.
This is what we're doing. So I know that feeling of, it's almost, it's actually helpless.
Mm-hmm.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
And honestly, today I look back at it and it's a little bit different, because when you're in that situation, that's that battle of, can I live with myself if I walk away and something happens and I'm miserable? Like, that's
Yeah.
a tough battle. But the greatest thing we ever did was split up.
Mm-hmm.
She's sober now. She's in a healthy relationship.
That's awesome.
Like, I haven't talked to her in years.
Yeah.
But like once a month, maybe once a quarter probably, I'll put her name in Facebook and
See how she's doing.
just check her photos. And she's happy and she's healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, thank God.
Yeah.
We'll probably never speak again. And that's okay. It's totally okay. But she's good.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good message for people out there. And similar to your story, I don't know. Hopefully that girl's still good.
Yeah, I mean, like a week after we broke up, she had a new boyfriend, and they're like either engaged or married now. I don't know if they're married yet, but I know they're getting married.
So lesson to all you folks out there listening that are going through that battle, it's okay to walk away.
Yeah.
It's okay to walk away.
It was the hardest thing ever I do. Like I said, I was trying to be respectful. Like my dad raised me, be old school gentleman and everything like that. Like I'm trying. And they were just like, sorry, you can't. And like I said, I knew it wasn't my fault, but I couldn't live with myself. And then like when I finally got out of it, like I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I love love. I'm very much a hopeless romantic, but like, bro, I don't want to do this anymore. And like I didn't even think of another relationship for like 3 years. And then I got my second relationship, and then I got treated like garbage again, to the point where like even her friends were like, hey, like she's not treating you right. You got to leave. And then that was 2019. Haven't been in a serious relationship since. And like I just got to the point like a month and a half. Like I was always like, yeah, girlfriend would be cool. Now like I was like, I don't want to waste my time. I have too much else going on right now. Maybe like a month and a half, 2 months ago, I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready to open up my heart again.
Yeah. It's powerful because I get this question a lot. It honestly annoys the hell out of me. But it's like, how are you single? One, by choice.
Yeah.
And two, I know I don't have a great picker. And I apologize for anyone out there that I've been on a date with or whatever. Like, I'm not talking about you. But no, I'm just kidding. I think that for people like us that struggle with some of the things we struggle with, we get to a place where it's like, how do I avoid that pain again?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I can carry that pain again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like what that pain did.
Yeah, at least for me, like I said, my dad raised me. I saw how he was. Like my dad still to this day, like my mom's like, hey, you get something out of my purse? He's like, no, I'm not going in your purse. I'm like, just the way he grew up, like old school gentleman. That's how I was raised. Where it's like, I know how I treat women, and I know my 60% is better than other people's 100%. However, I know I can't give 100% right now, and I don't think that's fair to you, because I wouldn't like that.
Yeah. And I've been in that same position for quite some time.
Yeah.
I've only been in one serious relationship after getting sober, and it was the only relationship I'd ever been in sober. So there was a lot of learning involved.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. And it was hard. It was really hard. But the lessons learned in that will carry forever.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm grateful for it, which sounds crazy.
Yeah. And similar to what you said, I get it all the time. Like, I don't know how you're single, but then it's like, I'd go on dates with people. Yeah. And it would go well. They're like, I've never been treated so well. Like, ring the doorbell with flowers first date. Like, old school stuff. Like, open the door. And then they get back with their ex and be like, and then like a month later, I don't know how you're still single. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
That happened multiple times. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you anymore.
Well, I think what that's tied to and what that's connected with in my mind is people go back to what they're comfortable with.
Yep.
And I've done it. I've done it numerous occasions where it's like, okay, I don't love this. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good, but
comfort.
But I understand it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that's tied to people's childhood. You seek out what you know.
Yep.
Well, once I went to therapy and my therapist was like, work through the childhood stuff. Like, do you really want to seek this out? Really? That's what you want? And it's like, shit. No, that is not what I want.
Yeah.
And so, but back to what we were saying, how like depression ties to that. And I think recovery ties to this too. A lot of relapses are around the ending of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the most depressive places I've ever been in my life were around the ending of a relationship. So I'm well aware. I have this wall up. Like, I know about it.
Dude.
I know what it looks like. I paint it every other week. Like,
it's there.
We're good buddies. But I know it's there.
Yeah.
And it's hard to break down because for me, that wall, in my mind, how it correlates is like that wall's keeping me alive. It's not that I don't trust you or I don't think you're a good person or whatever. My wall is there because it keeps me alive.
I've done enough pain where I don't want to do that anymore.
I'm good. I felt it. We're good. And so I think that's what's kept me from fully opening up again. I'm trying. I'm trying. I think that I'm imperfect at it.
We're all imperfect.
And it's also tough. I think about you. So you just went to days.
Hopefully soon.
Right, hopefully soon. Have you been on days though? Or you were
Nah,
like for a week or something?
It was just 1 week of training.
Okay. Well, I was happy for you.
It was
'Cause I
wonderful.
was like, oh, my boy's on day shift. Like,
It was wonderful.
he's gonna live a great life now. But I was thinking about you because your job isn't all that different from an like entrepreneur in the sense of like you're working a lot. And you're not complaining about it. Like you're saying yes. But it's a lot of hours. And then you have your dog, which I mean, from the outside looking in, say that's probably the most important thing in your life.
Well, you have no idea.
Yeah, I do.
We had conversations about it. Like, she saved my life.
So is Tex. And so, sidebar conversation. I went on a date with this girl one time. And after the date, like, she wanted to go back and like see where I lived, whatever. Walk in, and Tex ran up, real excited. And she kind of like stiff-armed him. I just know a lot, bro. I was like, it was nice meeting you, but you got to leave.
Yeah, 100%.
She's like, what? And I was like, you don't understand.
No,
like
you don't get
you just
it.
got to go.
Yeah.
So that's a total side note. But yeah, that's
I do
hilarious.
the same thing.
Yeah. My dog comes first.
Yep, always.
Hate to break it to you. But the whole conversation around depression, relationships, sobriety, recovery, what's important to you, all these walls, all these things. Do you think there's ever going to be a time, and you talked about this a little bit earlier, where you can actually sit down and not be fearful that it's not peeking around the corner?
No, I can't. Like, I've had the past, almost week off for the first time, and I couldn't even tell you how long. Because I work a lot of overtime, so spent time with my family, and then like didn't sleep much because we are just around doing things. Supposed to get on a flight Sunday morning, going to the airport at like 4:30. So I'm like, oh, I'll just stay up. Missed my flight because they shut down every lane on the bridge for 2 hours. I had to stay at the airport for 6 hours. Now I'm just stressed. I had to pay another like $500 for a flight. I'm like, then another night of daycare for my dog because I missed that. I'm like, what is going on? Then I've been off the past 3 days, and like I can't get myself to just shut it off. Whether it's like, it's not like when I'm off work, like, cool, I'm off work.
Yes.
Whatever. Like, I don't think about it. Like, I have 2 calls that actually like mess me up that I think about time to time, and it comes and goes. But then it's like, all right, what's my next thing? Cool. Grow my social media for my business and like Uplift and getting people help they need. And then it's like, cool. I just had a drop, packing orders, doing that. All right, what's the next drop? All right, I want to have another event soon. All right, what's next for that? And it's like, my mind is not shut off ever.
I think that's part of the reason, though. To your point, you can't give 100 to a relationship.
No. And I'm very aware of that, and I know that, and
that's how I am.
Yeah,
same way. And I'm pretty straightforward with it.
Yeah,
I was like, look, my purpose. I had to have this conversation not long ago, actually. But what it really boiled down to is my purpose is more important to me than a romantic relationship. And it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's not fun to say. You don't want to hurt somebody. You know what I mean? You don't want to make them feel like they're not important, because they are. Everyone's important. But I'm not willing to sacrifice anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because, and I don't know if you've experienced this, if I feel like I do anything out of alignment with my purpose, it destroys me.
Mm-hmm.
It destroys me. Like, I can't, you want to talk about getting pushed into a depressive state. The shame that comes with, I'm like, it's because you have the awareness.
Yeah.
You know what you need to be doing. The next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And people will say, this is why I asked the question I did, but people will say like, well, when are you going to you need some balance. You need to chill. And the answer to that is like, for me, it's always right there.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's keeping me like good and moving forward is trying to push the message and trying to help others. That's it. Like, I don't really have anything else that matters or keeps me good like that. My dog, for sure. That's why I brought the dogs up.
Yeah.
But that purpose, And it sounds like with you too, you had to go through a lot of pain to get to your purpose.
Oh my God, you have no idea. It took me, so I wanted to start Uplift for like the longest time ever. Like the first time I was open about something, about my story a little bit on social media was my senior year after I was done playing baseball. It was like Mental Health Awareness Day or whatever. And like I posted a picture and I told a little bit of my story. The amount of messages I got of like, we never expected this out of you. Like, you seem so happy all the time. Like, you're always making other people laugh. Like, you're always there for everyone else. I'm like, exactly, because I know what that pain feels like. And I never want anyone else to feel that pain. Which, if you look at people that have been in the darkest of dark, I'd say over 90% of them have the same exact way. You'll never know because they don't want anyone to feel that pain that they felt because they know what that feels like.
Right.
So I was open about it the first time. Not the full story, just a little bit. And I got those messages like, we never expected this out of you. Like, thank you for sharing. Like, I'm going through something similar. And I was like, all right, I want to start something. Couldn't come up with a name. And I finally came up with it. But I wasn't in a place myself to like start it. Like, I was like, all right, I still need to work on myself a little more. Graduated, started working. I was bartending. Then started coaching CrossFit. And I was like, all right, I'm in the place myself where I'm able to start it. So 2020 is when I started it. It's had its ups and downs, obviously, with anything in life. Like, started great. My community back home in New York, the gym I was at was absolutely incredible. Like, everything about it was just great and motivating, and everyone supported. And still to this day, like, they support. I'll see videos in their gym every single day, and like someone's wearing one of my shirts every day. Does not matter. At least one person. And it's like, I'll get messages like, hey, just show someone wearing your shirt in the gym. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like that's cool. So still to this day with that. And then I created, so, you know, like Murph and all that and Chad, they're all hero workouts.
Right.
So if you go on Wadwell, they'll all come up. So I created a suicide awareness one called Uplift. And like each number has significance to it, whether it's a suicide hotline number, how many people die per day in America from suicide, or each number has significance. Jim was like, yeah, absolutely. Jim, my coach, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's have an event. The amount of people, like, of course the gyms are very culty. Very much so.
For sure.
I had people from almost every single CrossFit gym on Staten Island come to that event because of the purpose behind it and the person I am and the message I'm spreading.
Yeah. And I think, so one thing I've learned about you, and this might not be proper or whatever, but like, I gauge a man by his ability to suffer. Period. That sounds crazy and weird and whatever. I mean, I think you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But to give you a prime example or the audience a prime example of how I knew that you'd been through a lot, we did the Chad together. You just got off work. So you'd worked 12 hours?
10.
10, okay. 10-hour shift. You probably slept 2 hours the day before, knowing you, if that. Get off that shift, you meet me at the gym, we do the Chad together, rep for rep. That's how I knew. That's suffering. There was nothing other than suffering taking place. And people will be like, well, that's stupid. It makes sense. It's like, no, it is a gift. It is a blessing. It is a superpower to have been through the darkness.
Oh, yeah.
You just have to find ways to use it.
Yep.
Because it puts you in a place where other people honestly can't access.
No.
They can't get there. And God bless them for that. Like, I don't want anyone else to be able to get there. But you can see it in someone, for instance, during a workout like that, where it's just, you just keep going. It's monotonous.
Like, you gotta get done at some point.
You just keep going one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. But I think we were around 600 to 700 reps, somewhere in that rep range. You're like, where are we at? It's like, okay. I want to say we're at 700. The truth is we're probably at 650.
Yep.
But we're at 600.
Yeah, literally.
Let's just earn this.
Yep.
And I can't do that with a lot of people.
No.
And the thing I knew in that moment, because you looked at me and you were like, all right, like that was it. And we just kept going.
Yep.
I was like, that's my guy.
Yeah.
You've been to a different place.
I'd rather any physical pain in this world than the mental pain that I face. Like, I signed up for the Austin Marathon last year.
Yeah.
It's me how many long runs I did beforehand.
Probably none.
2.
Okay.
I did. So the marathon was in February. I ran 1 8-mile run in December, one 11-mile run in January. I'm like, well, I'm signed up. Got to figure it out. The last thing I remember is seeing my sergeant at mile 17. Don't remember a single thing after. I'm like, if I pass out, I got to go any further.
Yeah, they'll come get you.
I was like, however, I'm not stopping.
Yeah.
So if I pass out, cool, whatever. I pass out. I'm like, all I saw was black and stars. I finished a race. So all that not training, my goal is like sub 4. Like, I'm not a runner. I didn't train at all. I'm like sub 4. That's reasonable. Without training a single thing, 4:01:25.
Yeah.
Didn't run a single thing.
Yeah.
I finished a race, saw black, and I just sat down. My brother found me from Find My iPhone. The only word I can say is Gatorade. And then he hooked up to IVs all night because he's a nurse.
Yeah. So I think, again, it's a gift. But for anyone out there that is struggling mentally and emotionally, the physical pain helps.
Oh, yeah.
And I know people are going to nudge on that in certain ways, and that's fine. It helped me.
It helped me too. Again, everyone's different. Different
Right.
things for different people. But
Right.
like, I feel like majority of people that grew up playing sports at a high level, that's what they choose to help them get better is that physical pain. Like they'll do a bunch of not dumb stuff, but like
There's a reward.
very
though.
hard stuff where it's like, cool, I did that.
It's rewarding.
Yeah.
In the sense of, if I do something hard and I finish it, at the very minimum, I completed it,
Yep.
which is a win.
But the issue with people like us is like, we'll finish it 5 minutes later. All right, what's next?
And I'll own that too.
Yep.
I'm fine with that. Like, I catch that all the time.
Yep.
When is enough enough?
It's
When
not.
I'm dead.
It's not.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
People will laugh because, especially in the ultra marathon space, like, when are you going to stop? When are you going to, And I'm like, I just want to do this next one. Once, it was like this with the Ironman. It was like this with a half marathon. It's like this with anything I've ever done. Like, once I do this, I'm good. I'm going to get off into something else. I'm going to figure it out. And it's always immediately after, we got to run that back.
Yep.
We got to do that again. Or what about this? Or we should try to do that. It keeps me alive.
Yeah.
It keeps me alive. And so if that's what it takes to keep me alive,
Can't
I'm
do
good with that. And I'm good with being alone
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of my life if that doesn't work for anyone else. I'm okay. Because that keeps me alive.
Yep.
If you want me dead, ask me to change.
Yeah.
Because I know what's on the other side of me not doing what I do on a daily basis. It's ugly. And it goes there quick. So if you have someone in your life, maybe stop pushing them to not chase these goals, these dreams, these pursuits. Maybe ask them how you can support it.
Yeah.
Do the opposite. You'd be shocked on what that could even do for you.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's an important piece too, but either way, enough about that. If 12 or 13 years old is young to me to even fathom being told you have depression.
I wasn't told that until college.
Okay.
I told because it was very clear with the way I was feeling and I wanted to take my own life. But I wasn't told that until college. I started therapy.
I think about that a lot too, because at what age can you actually understand that?
Yeah. I did very quickly. I also grew up very quickly.
Yeah, that's true. I think about, so the first time I ever saw anybody in the mental health world, I was in high school and I was having some issues with panic attacks, like ridiculous anxiety. I didn't know that's what it was. I thought I was dying.
Mm-hmm.
I was also a really bad hypochondriac growing up. So like any cancer we learned about in health class,
You're like, I have that.
I had it for the next week and a half. So I know I drove my mom.
That's like when people go
nuts.
on WebMD. It's like, you have a day to live.
Yeah. And I'm like, crap, I knew it, and so I've always been a hypochondriac, or I could convince myself in my own brain that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
What's crazy is with the anxiety, with the depression stuff, I don't think I could ever just step away from it when I wanted to.
Yeah.
Like with a broken arm, you're like, okay, my arm's broken. I can't shower with a cast on without putting a bag over it for 6 weeks. Or I need them to reset it and put screws and pins in. Or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And then it heals. And then hopefully you're able to use it at full capacity again. I don't know if there's a full capacity again when it comes to mental health struggles. I don't know if and maybe, hopefully there are people out there that have
Yeah.
fully recovered from it and don't suffer from it. I pray that for everyone. That hasn't been my experience.
No.
So it's like a broken arm analogy. I break my arm mentally every couple months. And it's usually on the other side of a big high.
Yep.
Like you would think, that's what's crazy about it psychologically. You avoid things that could push you into that big low, but you're always chasing that big high.
Which drops you down into that big low.
Which flips you.
I've
into that
never
big
done
low.
it, but it's like rolling on Molly from what I was told from experience. Like I've seen people on like, I went to a few raves with my boys and like, I never did anything, but like I've
Yeah.
seen people doing it. It's like, they're so hyped, so excited, smiling, dancing to the world. And then you see them an hour later on their down and it's like
Yep.
zombies.
I've done it. I did it once in Fort Lauderdale. And it was the most incredible feeling. We were going down I-95 at 3:00 in the morning. I was in a convertible, some dude that I just met. And he must have been going like 130 miles an hour. And I'm licking my finger and putting it in the bag, dunking it in the Molly, and then licking it again, just over and over again. And I remember this feeling, this euphoria of like, if I die right now, it's totally cool.
Yeah.
Like that's how much of a release it is. The 4 days after that, deadly.
You had that same thought, but on the opposite side, where it's like,
100%.
I've been there like very recently of like, am I going to kill myself? Do I want to? Absolutely not.
Yes.
Yeah, if something happens, it happens, whatever. I don't care.
People need to know that conversation still takes place. You have how many years of therapy?
Since probably 2017.
Okay. 7 years of therapy. You have a clothing brand centered around it. We've talked about this off camera, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but Austin Police Department has resources that help people.
Very much so.
You have people around you that understand your struggle. And yet, that thought still creeps in from time to time.
Very recently.
People need to hear that.
Yeah.
Because it's real shit. I started, dude, Sunday. August was a high for me, straight up. Like I was in my purpose. My purpose was to run 406 miles.
Psycho.
That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm doing. There's no stopping me. It's exactly what's going to happen. I'll do whatever it takes. Dude, September 1st hit, and I was like, oh shit.
What do I do?
Well, we did the Chad.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, cool. Like, still got my edge. But that's sickening. You think about it, to run 406 miles and then do the Chad
Yeah.
the day after.
And then like, oh, what am I doing now?
There's something wrong with me, like straight up. So Sunday, I've been able to really push through and just figure it out, stay in my routine, do what I need to do. I want to get into the, I have some questions around masturbation I want to talk to you about. That's been big for me. I just stopped.
Yeah.
Like, I don't touch it. I mean, well, I pee obviously, but like, you get what I'm saying? That's been huge for me. But I've done all the right things, bro, since September 1st. Tried to get the right amount of sleep, tried to eat the right food, tried to exercise, tried to talk to people in my life that uplift me, plug in your brand, all these things.
Yeah.
And Sunday, I was sitting at the house and I'm like, fuck, it's here. It is that tangible for me now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, nope, this is it. This is here. Once you know it, it's like, it's here.
Yep.
Is it going to be 24 hours? Is it going to be 24 days? And you don't have that answer.
Nope.
Because if you're already doing everything you think you need to be doing and you're in that position, like clearly it ain't working.
Yeah.
Like, so this is coming from a different angle. Could it be worse? Sure. So I think for me, you motivate me to be authentic and vulnerable around that side of things. It's easy for me to talk about drugs and alcohol now.
Yeah. Because you're at that point.
It's what I do. It's still not easy for me to be like, I'm depressed.
You know how long that took me?
It's still fucking hard. And I've been talking about it with you and others and the podcast for a year. It's still hard to talk about.
No.
And it's like, I think the reason it's so hard for me to talk about is because And I know this to be so false. I know this to be so false, but I've convinced myself that I'm alone in it, or that I'm this like lone soldier dealing in this battle. And it's just not fucking true. It's just not true. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're going through it, I can assure you, you're not alone. I'm right here.
Same.
He's right there. So like,
I'm right here.
we're right here.
But I have the same thoughts. Like, who was I talking to? I was talking to someone maybe last week, and I straight up was like, hey, I'm not okay. Straight up, like, words that I'm like, I don't know if it was a text or whatever it was. I was like, I am not okay. Like, what's wrong? Like, I've never felt so alone in my entire life. I'm like, not that social media is anything, because again, there's doing it for clout and there's doing it for the right reasons. Like, when I first started posting more is when it was a cop, and it was like, oh, you should stop posting your cop. For what? I post, this is going to be sidetracked, but kind of the same thing, where it's like, I post mental health, I post my dog, I post fitness. Chief could see myself, I'm not getting in trouble. Then turned into all these officers in my department. Like, I'm still a new guy. I just got off probation. All these officers are opening up to me on social media, reaching out to me, telling me their story, like sending me pictures of the antidepressants. Like, bro, me too. I've had a sergeant open up to me. Like, I'm still a new guy.
Yeah.
I got less than 2 years on. Like, they're opening up to me about it because it's real and it's something they all face, and the stigma behind it, whether it's men, cops, first responders, or whatever the case may be, we're like, that's why I'm so open about it. But it's like, I shared up was like, hey, I'm not okay. I've never felt so alone. And then going back to social media, like, I think the peak I was at was like 6.5 million people I reached in 30 days. And like the messages I get of like, hey, thanks to you, like, I'm still alive. Or like, someone got a tattoo that said no rain, no flowers, and sent it to me. I was like, hey, it's because like,
Sick.
this is because of you. Or like the people that reach out to me, I'm like, hey, or they're like, how can I help? I'm like, I don't know. And after all that, I was still sitting there like, I'm not okay. And I've never felt so alone in my entire life.
Dude. Yeah. There's no other side. I'm convinced. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
It's always going to be there.
Are there things to help it? Absolutely. But is it always going to be there? Yeah.
And I do want to get into some of the things that help it. But I'll say this before we transition into that. There was a point at the end of August, early September, like a bunch of different things happened that honestly should have gave me rocket fuel for 10 years. Like positive things. And when you're in that state, it's like none of that exists.
Nope.
It all goes away. You don't remember any of it. It doesn't matter. It's not real. No one cares. Like it's dude, I spiral so quickly.
Yep.
And I just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think people out there, it's like, well, why didn't you just ask for help or tell somebody? When you're so busy spiraling, there isn't time to tell somebody. I'm going deeper in the hole.
Yeah.
Like you almost have to find me or be that friend that calls or texts.
Why did I send you those messages
Yeah.
every week, every other week?
Yeah, dude. I was going to talk about that too. At first, I was like, but Jimmy will text me and how's your mental? How's your head? And at first I'm like, dude, give it a fucking break, man. Like, you know the answer. Leave it be. But now it's like, you know what? Not great.
Yeah.
Or, you know what? I'm okay right now. But those are the messages I think that I guarantee you that message to somebody has saved their life.
100%.
There's no doubt in my mind. And it's the same as your friend calling you when you were 12, 13 years old. You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be alive.
Yep.
If you weren't, that phone call would have never happened.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that. And a lot of people say that's crazy to think that way, but you're here and it's because that happened.
Yep.
Somebody made that decision. That wasn't her or you, right? Someone said, no.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but you need to call him. So this is the other thing I'll say to people. If you get like a weird nudge or like a signal or something crosses your brain, like I need to call this person.
Just do it.
Call them.
Yep.
That's outside of us. That's God, the universe, whatever you're into. It doesn't matter. Just trust it. That call is supposed to happen.
Yep.
You need to make that call. Because I can't tell you how many times people have called me and they'll say, something just told me that I needed to call you. And I didn't even tell them. But like in the moment, I'm like, fuck. Thank God you called.
Through it.
Thank God you called. And I wouldn't even open up then. You know, I still kept it to myself. But if you're getting that nudge, do it.
It's something, or even like, it's a simple text of, hey, thinking about you, hope you're good. Something, anything, just reach out. Even if you're not getting that nudge, just reach out to your friends. It's really not that hard. Like, hey, checking on you. Hey, how are you? Something, anything.
Yeah, what I've learned as I've gotten older is there's probably 3 people in my life that I talk to every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not complaining. That's a blessing, right? Because there's people out there that don't have anyone. And you've experienced this, I know you have, where you'll be in that spiral and you'll set your phone down and be like, well, let's see who reaches out.
No one.
It's a doorknob, dude.
Yep.
I mean, nothing.
Yep.
It ain't going to ding all day.
Like, might as well shut my phone off.
It won't ding all day.
Yep.
You keep looking at it like, oh,
No one cares.
still just the time. Sweet. Like,
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's real. And if you're out there and that's a reminder though that you need to try to engage, because people are living their own lives. The person you want to text you might be so wound up and stuck in their own head that they're having suicidal thoughts or whatever. They might not ever tell you that. I ask myself that question all the time. How many people are alive right now that have never told a single soul that they've thought about killing themselves?
I believe that number is extremely high.
It's in the millions.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. 100%.
That's insane to think about.
I saw a stat 2 weeks ago when I was in that class. If I'm getting it, I believe it was 25%. I'm pretty sure it was a number, but it was something very high. And I believe it's higher, of cops at one point in their career or after thinking about killing themselves. Think about, you have a gun on your hip all the time. Very accessible. Everything we see and we do, normal person's not supposed to see. I'm pretty sure it's 25%, but if I had to take a guess, that number is significantly higher.
I would say it's higher.
100%.
I would definitely say it's higher.
But cops will never answer that question, honestly.
No. And a lot of people won't.
Yeah.
Cops, yeah, for sure. The pride ego thing, which I get. But it's also, I bet you 25% of the people walking this earth.
Oh,
had the
yeah.
thought.
I think way higher than that.
So, and maybe I'm wrong. That's fine.
I hope so.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yep.
But I know for me, I'm in my brain, I'm like, okay, if I can have that thought, I know how blessed I am to be alive and have the family that I do and the friends that I do and the job that I do and the dog that I do and the house that I do and the truck that I'm well aware. Like, I don't take any of that for granted. I'm so grateful. That doesn't excuse me from depression or anxiety or any of this other shit.
Robin Williams.
Yeah. Prime example. So to me, it's like, I try not to judge anybody in that way.
No.
Their struggle is their struggle.
Yep.
And it's not a comparison game. It's not about like how they grew up, what they've been through, what addictions they have. None of that is relevant when we're talking about mental health.
Nope.
It's their experience and it's bad. And bad is bad.
It's something I bring up all the time. So if I'm at work and it's like a suicidal call, whatever the case may be, I'm the first one to sign to it. Like, that's my thing. Like, people love going to get dope, get guns, all that. Like, that's my thing. Go to them, and a lot of times I see it more in teens where it's like they're closed off, not saying a single thing. I'm like, I get it. I've been there. Like, I say it all the time. Like, I'm in uniform. I don't care. I'm still a human being at the end of the day, whether I'm in uniform or not. Like, people get so caught up of, I'm a cop, this is my identity, blah, blah, blah. Bro, you're still human. You take the uniform off, who are you? You're a son, you're a father, you're a husband, you're a grandkid. Like, you're all your friend, you're all these things besides being a cop. Like, at work, yeah, you gotta be stern sometimes. Cool. All the time? No, it depends. Like, you're still a human being at the end of the day. And I say, with all my gear on, I don't care. I'm like, hey, I only say it if I know it's gonna be helpful and if they don't open up. And I'm like, hey, everyone has a different path to get there, to get to that point. However, I know what it's like to feel at that point of, you want to take your own life, you feel hopeless, you're alone. I get it. I was like I said, everyone's got a different path to get there, but I know what it feels like to be at that point. And like, I'll show them my tattoo. It says, keep moving forward, a semicolon. Like, if you don't believe me, look. I'm like, you could ask my coworkers, you could ask everyone. Like, I'm not just saying it. Like, I don't, uniform or not, I would have the same conversation with you. Like, I'm still a human being at the end of the day. And when I say that is when they usually start opening up.
Yeah, and I'll be straight up with you because I love you. When I look at you, I don't see a cop.
No. But you know how many times I get that?
Like a traditional, like
No.
what you would imagine.
No.
And I think there's a lot that plays into that. And I've thought about this since we've been sitting here talking today. You're like, outside of your faith, I'll speak from my faith. But what I believe is God said, I'm going to put this man in a position to help as many people as he possibly can. And right here's where I need him right now.
Yeah.
And that's why you have a police uniform on. That's what I believe. I don't think God makes mistakes when it comes to stuff like that. You're probably never going to be Miami Vice, like making, you know, the 100-kilo heroin bust. You might.
It's not, like I said, it's not something I want to do.
Because it's not in your purpose.
No.
It's not in your purpose. But to want to go to a call where someone's saying, hey, I want to kill myself, that's your purpose.
Yeah.
If you want it, that's your purpose. And I don't think, again, God makes mistakes when it comes to stuff like that. You could have, I see you as a chameleon almost. That's how I think of you. I think if God would have been like, you know what? You know, Google is really suffering from depression, the people of Google, the tech industry, and there's been a lot of suicide. Jimmy's going to be working at Google. That's what I think. That's what I think
That
your
means a
purpose
lot.
is. It's not. And that's why I don't think your identity is a cop.
No. And so many, oh my God, I could go off on this conversation forever. Like, so many people, and like, being a first responder or being a cop changes you as a person. And that's okay. Like, it's very understood when you start it, like, hey, that's one of the first things they tell you, this is going to change you. And that's okay. Like, it's part of it. You see things you're not supposed to see. Like, you see the worst of society. Like, everyone hates you because the uniform you put on. Like, it's understandable that you change as a person. However, too many people change so much where there's no going back, where their home life sucks now. They lead to alcohol. They do this, they do that. Like, they're salty, they're angry, they're miserable. This place sucks, blah, blah, blah. Like, chill, bro. Chill. Like, you take the badge off after 40 hours. Cool. You go home. Like, I get what we see. If you have a traumatic day, all for it. Like, you know how many times for EMS I would drive home dead quiet? I'm like, I don't want to hear anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone. Like, when I lived at home at the time, my parents would try to talk to me. I'm like, I love you guys, just not tonight.
Yeah.
Just let me be. And I get that. It's not going to be every night like that. Like, you go home, and if you're married, you're still a husband. If you have kids, you're still a father. Like, go hang out with your friends. Go do something. Like, at the end of the day, you take the badge off after 40 hours. You're still a human being. Do not make it your identity. And so many people make it their identity where it's like, well, you post on social media. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Because I can. I'm a human being. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, why are you making this into... So then they lose that purpose, like we were talking about with sports before, where I went to a peer support class 2 weeks ago, and the sergeant, he used to be a sergeant, he's retired now, that ran the unit for a while. He now works with retirees because he retired. And all these people, like, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They made this whole thing their personality for 30 years, and it's like, what do I do? I lost my identity. What do I do? Like, I had nothing else. I had no hobbies. I had no anything. Like, what do I do now? And so many people make it that, and it frustrates me to no end.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And I think this is a great point to transition into more of the solution-based conversation. So I have two questions. Question one for you is, how do you delay or prevent depression from showing up in your life?
As of like 2 weeks ago, I made it a point to myself to actually take care of myself. For the past year, I kind of lost myself again. Like, I worked a ton of overtime, and for me, I'm like, cool, I'll sacrifice a year or two of my life now so I can set myself up for the future. So it's like, cool, when I have my future kids or anything, like, I can take them on vacation, not worry about it. I could, like, when I get into a relationship, I could focus on that. I don't have to work the overtime. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. And I was like, cool, I'll sacrifice. And did I get burnt out at work? Absolutely not. Like, I was still same person, doing the same job, doing all that. So I didn't get burnt out, but I lost myself in the process of I didn't work out for months. I didn't do this. I ate like garbage. And when I get super anxious, I don't eat. When I get super depressed, I don't stop eating. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I'll straight up go to 7-Eleven and get like 4 bags of candy and eat it all in like 3 seconds. Like, and then I'll want more after that.
Yeah.
Like, when I get depressed, in the past probably 3 months, like, I didn't stop binge eating. Like, binge eating is an understatement. Like, didn't stop, didn't work out, didn't do anything. Again, a lot of that, to me, night shift works for some people. Does not work for me. And being on nights this whole time, it's like, I get home and I'm exhausted. And like when I lived up north where it was like a half-hour drive, like I'm driving home and I'm like sleeping as I'm driving. I almost crashed. I'm like, nights are awful. And it didn't work for me. And I didn't work out. And the only time I really went outside besides work was like to walk my dog, take care of her, take her out. And 2 weeks ago, I got in a very minor crash at work, which was a complete accident. And luckily, no one was hurt. Both cars were drivable, everything like that. It was at that moment I had a conversation with Matt Johnson not too long ago, like not too long before that, and he opened up to me about something, and I felt like as soon as that happened, I'm like, I gotta take care of myself. Like I said, it wasn't bad at all. Like both cars are drivable, everyone was okay, no injuries, but it was like, all right, I gotta.
You paid attention.
Yeah, I was like, this is my sign. Like no one got hurt, nothing like that. Like I gotta start taking care of myself. So I actually took a few days off. I've been trying to find a gym where I loved On It. I used to go to On It, but it was like, I don't want to think about anything. I just want to show up because that just gives me more stress thinking about like a program or whatever. I'm like, love On It, but I just want to go to a CrossFit gym again. Like walk in, hey, tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. And that's it. We do it to my best ability, build that community. So I tried a few different gyms. I tried 2 and I liked them both. Both were very different. And then I tried a third, which is called Grip. I met the owner, Paige, at this event called Open Spaces, probably had 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, something like that. And I walked into the gym. She stood up and was like, oh, Jimmy. And like, it depends where I am, whether I'm Jimmy, James, whatever. So gives me a hug, introduced me to everyone, and like, it felt like home. I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So I've been going all week this week, and I'm like, hey, I'm making it a point to go there and build that community, put myself first. Like, last night I was just sitting there and I was off and I was like, I gotta go to sleep now. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go do something I love doing. I'm like, I love having decaf coffee before bed. There's something about it where it's like so relaxing, where I usually have to do it at home. I'm like, you know what? Put myself first. I love going to coffee shops, Radio Coffee and Beers down the street from my house. And went there with my dog, sat there, had decaf coffee, had the time of my life.
It's hilarious you bring that up. I did the same thing last night. I was on Uber Eats. So I stayed up here last night in Austin. I had a buddy fly in and I needed to pick him up from the airport. And I was on Uber Eats because I'm never up here at night.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, there's so many great options. And something was telling me, it's like, Trip, just go to Sun Life. Just drive to Sun Life. They can deliver, but like just drive there. And I battled this for like 40 minutes. Like, I don't really want to. Do I really want to know what's going on? I've become really indecisive. So I drive to Sun Life. I get there. I'm standing in line. There's a guy in front of me with a shirt on that I recognize. I make a comment. We spark up a conversation. Turns out he's 3 years sober.
Oh, wow.
Like, completely random.
Yeah.
He's not from here. He's in town from South Carolina. We're going to run together tomorrow morning.
That's awesome.
And it's like,
you were meant to go there.
We're meant to go there. So again, when you get those nudges and they're not obviously bad ones, do it.
Yeah.
But if the nudges like go buy an 8-ball and snort that,
different. Maybe
snort
don't
that
do
down,
that.
like don't do that. Walk away from that one. But if it's something community related or network related or like being around people, usually when I go, I'm like, that's why.
Yeah.
And so to your point, I think that the community piece is really important.
And it's something I've been missing big time here. So like I moved down here. Like I said, New York, I had a phenomenal community. And I moved down here, started the academy a week later. And finished and just studying at that point for 8 months. Finished the academy, started FTO, and like that was stressful, but like kind of built my own community where I met a lot of people. Then started working overtime and didn't have a community. But again, that was my own fault. So now I'm like trying to build that, and like the past 3 days, I'm making it a point to do these things. Like I went to the gym, met more people. Before this, I went for an hour and a half walk around the lake with my buddy Alex at started the Open Spaces event, and we had a very similar conversation to this about everything. After this, I'm going to have lunch with my friend that I haven't seen in a while. I'm like, I'm being deliberate about things I'm doing to help get myself back to that place where I have that community, I have the people around me, which I know I have the people around me and supporting, but it's like making it a point to go out of my way to see them and be around them and be present.
You're the hardest thing for me to do in that space is when I think about, I know how it feels to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when I don't feel good, I'm so focused on feeling good again. It's hard to not cheat that.
Yeah.
And do the binge eating or engaging. We were talking about masturbation earlier, which I do want to tap into because I think that alone is creating a lot of these issues.
Oh, 100%.
For men. But to not use any of those drugs, alcohol, whatever, to feel better in the moment, that's the real battle.
Yep.
It's like, nope, like this is how I feel right now, and that's okay. Eventually it'll subside.
Yep. Eventually, whenever that is.
Right. And you can't rush that. And it's almost like when you let it go, you're like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm depressed. Great. I'm still going to go to the gym. I'm still going to get my sleep. I'm going to eat healthy. It's all good. Fuck it. That's when it starts to lift. It's almost when you acknowledge it, you give it the platform in your own life. You're like, okay, you want to hang out for a while and sit at the table, depression? Like, welcome to the table.
Yeah.
Sit down, hang out, chill for a while. But I think for me, along with that conversation, while depression's at the table, it don't want to sit at the table with me too long.
No.
It's like, oh, fuck this dude. Like, I don't want to hang out here.
Yep.
He's gonna do what he wants.
Yep.
He's gonna eat the right things. He's gonna go to sleep. He's gonna wake up. He's not gonna masturbate and watch porn. He's not gonna drink and do drugs. I can't get him. So I'm gonna quit.
That's powerful.
That's how I think about it. So it almost becomes like a reminder for me when I'm in those spaces or in those moments, like, no, I'm just gonna keep showing up because I know these are the right things. And I'm literally, depression's going to walk away from my table because it can't handle me.
Eventually, whenever that is.
Because we're all bigger than the mental health issue.
Yep.
If we band together, if we work together, if we talk about it, we help each other, we're bigger than the issue itself. But we have to be able to make those different connections, not just with people, but within ourselves in order to battle these things. And I think everyone has different tips, tricks, things that they do. But for me, that helps.
Yeah.
What would you say gets you out of it? Like, once you're in it, you've prevented it and delayed it as long as possible, but now you're in it.
Working out in community.
Okay, those same two things.
And it's just something that I put off for so long where, like, I was just so tired from, like I said, night shift. It works for some people. I have someone on my shift. He's been doing it 12 years. He loves it. I'm like, you're a psycho.
He doesn't like his wife.
No, loves his wife. He's like, it just works for his family.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's kind of the same thing if you think about it. You can't really love your wife if you never see her and she's on a different
No, his is there. Like, it just works. Like, that's the only time he can see her.
Oh, so it works good.
Yeah, so that's why he's like, I like my family. I want to see them. That's why I do it. But, like, for him, it works. Like, for me, it just doesn't work. Like, I enjoy seeing people. I enjoy walking down the street and seeing people and seeing sunlight and being outside and walking my dog when it's sun out and not being exhausted. So I was just so tired all the time where I wouldn't do any of that. And, like, now, like I said, I'm being deliberate with it where it's like, hey, I need to do these things. And hopefully I'm getting off nights to evenings, which is like 2 p.m. to midnight or 3 to 1, which would be like, I could start my morning. I love mornings, like early morning coffee, a nice walk in the morning, working out, my favorite thing in the world. And I'm like, I could do those things and still go to sleep at a normal-ish time. And hopefully, either this week, next week.
What's pretty incredible about all this is once you've been through the darkness, the things that you actually want are pretty damn simple.
Very simple.
Like, I love the morning. I love seeing the sun come up. I love my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I love spending time with Tex in the morning. I like to run. I hate to run, but I like to run. We're working on it.
It's like the little things.
But it's not like, I don't go to sleep or wake up like, man, I hope I get $1 million tomorrow. It's not that at all.
It's like, I'm going to have coffee in the morning with my dog.
And that's $1 million to me.
Yeah.
Because you could offer me $1 million today to lose that tomorrow and I wouldn't trade you.
No.
Wouldn't trade you.
Like Bailey, my dog, is in, I think, November. So we had an officer killed in the line of duty. And my whole shift, obviously, went to the funeral. So we worked overnight, went straight to the funeral. My dog was in daycare. And I sleep for 3 hours because we're up for like 30 something. I've worked that night. And I wake up to like, on 3 hours sleep of like a million missed calls from daycare. Like, hey, we had to rush to the hospital. I'm like, I start bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on? So then they're like, bloat, all this stuff. She needs surgery. So my buddy I graduated with, his wife's a vet. I call her, and her name's Bailey too. I'm like, Bailey, what is going on? Like, what is? She's like, she needs surgery. I'm like, all right. So call the hospital back. They're like, it's gonna be about $8,000. Is that okay? I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, do what you have to. I'll figure it out. $8,000 on surgery.
Yeah.
But she's alive.
Yeah.
And that means more than anything.
For sure. I think that you and I relate closely in that. There's no price on tax.
No.
No number. And to really ruffle some feathers, I'd trade him for a lot of people.
Yeah. 100%.
And so it is.
I'll go out and like, man, I just want to see my dog. Sorry, I gotta go.
All the time. Right. And I can't. I don't want to go a day without him.
Yeah.
I don't, because those are my best days.
Mm-hmm.
And my biggest fear that I carry around is something happening to him. It's going to happen at some point.
Yep.
But man, if there's a day that I don't look forward to, it's that one.
Like one of my coworkers straight up was like, hey, like, I know she's young. Like when that day comes, I don't care if you have a wife or not. Like, we're adopting you for the week.
Yeah.
Literally straight up said that.
Yeah. People get it.
Yeah.
It's way too deep and way too powerful, the connection with an animal, especially if somebody's been in a dark spot.
Yep.
That's why I think one of the craziest stories I've ever seen was the story around Marcus Luttrell. They gifted him a dog, if I'm not mistaken, through like one of the veteran foundations, but had named it after the other guys that were lost on the mountain that day. And so it was obviously his best fucking friend.
Yeah.
Has this dog, these thugs pull up and shoot his dog. Like shoot the dog. So he grabs 2 pistols and gets in his truck and chases them through like 3 counties. He's like on the phone with dispatch. And they're like, sir, you need to slow down. He's like, nah. He's like, I'm a Navy SEAL. Like, I don't care. These people shot my dog. They killed my dog. And they're going back and forth. Finally, they realize like he's
not stopping.
No. So then the cops, they finally catch up to these guys. They, do what they need to do. They get arrested. I don't know how he didn't kill all of them.
Yeah.
That's all the thing going through my head is like, dude, I don't know. But maybe that's because he was trained so well.
Yeah.
He's able to like,
Yep.
put that wall up, if you will, to not take that step. But like people that hurt animals in any way, to me, are like that. You're dead to me.
I can't go to those calls at work. I'm straight up like, I'll go to every call, like fight in progress, like someone shooting, fine. Animal calls, absolutely not.
No.
I literally cannot. I do not. I refuse. I don't go. I can't.
Yeah, dude. The people that are cruel to animals, there's a
can't.
special place for them.
Yeah.
There's a special place for them. And I believe it's an eternal hell that's different than any other hell. And I'm hoping there's like, I don't know, this is twisted. I'm just saying they're just getting beat to death nonstop. But like, animals save lives too.
Oh yeah.
But either way, we can go off on that for an hour and a half. The last thing I want to ask you about and talk to you about, and I think it's more I already know the answer, but it's for the viewer, the listener. What are some of the things that they're doing in the police department, in the Austin Police Department, to help people that might be struggling, just so people can understand that things are actually happening?
So I can speak from this department because obviously I work in it. I can't speak for any others, but I know our department. So the class I went to was a peer support class, and the peer support unit put it on. So it's consisted of 4 officers and a sergeant. So the guy I told you about before, Tim, he's a retired sergeant that deals with retirees. When he first started it, Chief asked him like, hey, I need you to run this unit. And it was just him. He's like, I need more people. So he turned it into more officers. Now it's 4 officers and a sergeant. They put 12 to 15 people a year through alcohol treatments. Whatever. Usually it's through referrals because like your shift mates know you the best because they spend every second with you. So
Right.
a lot of times, unless someone reaches out themselves, a lot of times it's through referrals and nothing's ever forced unless it gets to the point of you're suicidal with a plan and like you're about to. And like that's just more of like, hey, this is the only time we're allowed to break basically confidentiality, but they'll do everything before then so that they don't have to. But everything's confidential, like everything. And whatever the case may be, whether it's alcohol, suicide, problems at home, whatever the case may be, they have so many resources that they'll guide you in the right direction, whether it's inpatient program, outpatient program, therapy, EMDR, whatever the case may be. They have so many resources, and like that's their sole job to help other officers in that sense. And ultimately, that's the unit I want to go to because it's what I do anyway. It's like I do it now without being in the unit, and that's the only unit I want to go to. Like I said, people love going SWAT, find dope, find guns, all that stuff. Like nah, like I want that officer to live to see another day. I want him to get off alcohol so he could be that father. He could be that parent. Like when he takes off the uniform at the end of the day, like he realized he's still a human being. He doesn't have to turn to the bottle of whiskey. Like he could turn to a water and take his kids to their baseball game, or
Right.
like that's what I want to do because I know how much first responders struggle with it and the stigma behind it. And more so with them, it's like I forgot the exact number, but how many critical incidents first responders see compared to the normal person, especially police officers. Like I said, like people only call us when they need us on their worst day possible. At some point, it's going to catch up to you. Like whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 years, 20 years, 30 years, when you retire and you're 10 years not being a cop, like at some point, it's going to catch up to you. And people just like, I don't know if they just don't accept it or they don't want to, or they're like, nah, I'm good. Like, bro, you're not good. Like I see it. Like, I promise you're not good. So ultimately that's where I want to go because that's what I'm so passionate about. Like, I know what it feels like to be in that place. And like, if I could help this officer, like live his retirement, like be a good dad and be a good mom and be a good wife or husband or whatever the case may be. Like, hey, let's extend your life longer than the 5 years you're projected to live after you retire. Like you work this hard, you put your life on the line so many times, like time to enjoy a little bit. And at some point it's going to catch up. And I know someone I'm very close with got in a shooting not too long ago, and someone I'm no longer friends with was like, oh, you joking with them yet? No, bro. Like at the end of the day, like no one wants to pull that trigger. Like, do we have to sometimes? Yeah. No one wants to pull that trigger. We're humans. Like, absolutely not, bro. Like I told him like, hey, if I gotta take off work, whatever I gotta do, like I'm here for you. He couldn't talk about it because D&Ds and all that. I'm like, I'm not asking you to talk about it, but like, however I can be here to help you, whether it's just we'll go get dinner, we'll go for a run, we'll go rock climbing, whatever the case may be. Like, I'm here for you. Okay, like I said, no one wants to pull that trigger.
Mm.
And I saw how much he appreciated that. And I'm like, it's really not hard to be a human being. Like, whether it's at work, whether it's in the gym, or like just be a good person. It's really not that hard, I promise.
It's almost like, I think, and this is speaking directly to men, because there's obviously some safety issues that people need to be aware of. But if you're a man and you're okay right now, go find one who's not.
Yeah. Very easy to find.
It's that simple. It's legit, not rocket science.
Yeah.
You can, if you live near a city, you can walk out the door and find one.
And if you can't find anyone, go to a gym. Odds are the biggest person in the gym has some demons he fought to get like that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, when people talk about helping people, this always comes up around the homeless population, and it pisses me off. But people will say like, why would I give them money when they're going to da, 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 da. And I'm like, why don't you just sit the fuck down on the curb and have a conversation? Not give them nothing, but just say, hey, tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Where are you from? What do you like to do? You would be shocked at the responses you get. People will literally sit there and just talk to you because you know what? Not a swinging dick has stopped and talked to them in the last 5 years.
No. And we had a call. It was in the woods at a camp. And me and my buddy were just talking to the dude, and we're like, if you don't mind us asking, like, how'd you want, like, what's
Yeah.
your story, man? And he wound up there through like a divorce. Ex-wife took everything. He's like, I'm trying, man. He's like, I got a job. I'm working towards it. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
It was like a simple conversation.
Just talk. And that's what I'm saying. If you're a man, it is our duty. I believe that. Like, and for me, it is our duty and responsibility from God to seek out people that are struggling when you're okay, and even when you're not okay. Because at the end of the day, what people lose or they detach what they don't understand, that could be you tomorrow.
Yes. Very quickly, like that.
And you better pray to God that somebody stops and talks to you. So remember that when you see that guy that looks like he fucking ain't had a shower in 73 days,
Mm-hmm.
and he brushes his teeth with his fingers, like whatever. Get past all that, realize he's a human or she's a human. That could be you.
Yeah.
We're all, like I said earlier, 1 decision, 2 decisions, 3 decisions, 4 decisions, 5 decisions away from that being your life.
And everyone's battling something you don't know about. Everyone.
Every single person you pass.
It's just having a conversation. Like the dude that jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, I'll bring up him again. Like some lady, they wound up interviewing her later on, like stopped and asked him to take a picture. She knew something was wrong, didn't know what to say. So she's like, hey, can you take a picture? Because she just wanted to say something, but didn't know what. And I mean, obviously, he still did it, but he's like, I just wanted someone to talk to me. He's like, I just wanted someone to ask me if I'm okay.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like something so simple.
And it doesn't cost you anything.
No.
It doesn't cost you anything. That's one thing that's critically important to me, and I know it is to you, as life changes, because I can tell you life's going to change.
Oh, yeah.
But as life changes, I want to make sure that always stays at the forefront for me. Find the guy in the room that's struggling.
Yep.
Go plop down beside him and just say, what's up, dude? Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm here. And I think that if you just do that if every person did that with one person every single day, take 5 minutes out of your day to go do that, the world would be such a better place.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Something so simple.
Yeah. It takes very little.
Like I said, it's really not that hard just to be a good person.
No, it's not. It's actually more difficult and more time consuming to be a piece of shit.
Yeah. Like very simple.
Yeah, it is. So, and I know because I've done both.
Yeah.
Right. Keeping it real. I've been a piece of shit many a times. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a lot of work to correct those things too. It's very easy to say, like, my thing in the mornings in downtown Austin is like, I don't care if you're the CEO of Frost Bank or you're the homeless guy. If you're out in public, it's good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Period. I don't give a shit what you can give me. It ain't about that. But everybody, like, people need to take that approach.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you were taught the same way. There's this old saying, and I really don't even love it because I think it belittles janitors or custodians. But the saying is, you treat the custodian or janitor the same way you treat the CEO. And what I really derive from all of that is treat a person like a person.
Yeah.
Period.
And I was back in New York this past weekend, and it's like, I was back there for 10 minutes. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, it's so transactional, but it's such a big city where it's like, everyone's rushing from one place to the other. Like, hey, I gotta do what I gotta do, and I gotta go home, and I gotta go do the next thing. Where it's like here in Austin, it's like, hey, good morning. And like people say Southerners are so nice. Like, it's true. In New York, it's like, hey, good morning. It's like, hey, go F yourself.
Yeah.
Cool. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Here, it's like, hey, good morning. You can have a conversation with someone, or they'll say it back, or they'll smile at you, and like they mean it.
Something.
Yeah.
And I always say, if you say good morning to somebody in Austin and they don't say good morning back, it used to piss me off. I'll be completely transparent. I'd be like, asshole. But real growth is understanding that either A, they don't get it yet, or B, they're struggling too.
Yeah.
So
And even that good morning might spark something.
It might cut them loose.
Exactly.
It might cut them loose. And so keep saying it.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get responses.
Again, be a good person. It's not that hard.
Yeah, for sure. Well, dude, we're out of time, but
Appreciate you having
we
me.
rocked it again.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. I wish we still had the first one too, because I would want to release both. because I feel like this one honestly was different than the first one.
It was very different.
It was, yeah, in a good way.
Yeah.
And the other one was great too. So I was like, damn, I was sitting here talking. I'm like, I wish we had both.
Yeah, that's all right.
So that just means we'll have to record again. That's
You
what
let
that
me
means.
know.
I think as we progress through seasons with
Mhm.
Uplift and Ain't Dead Yet,
Yep.
and we've talked about this, we still need to do an event.
Yep.
We need to collaborate.
I was talking to Matt's girlfriend Amanda about doing something this fall or winter, whatever. After that cycle runs across Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after that,
We'll give him, I guess that's a good excuse.
yeah, he's only running 850 miles.
Yeah.
But something after that, we'll plan something all together.
Yeah, we should. It'd be epic.
Raise money for a good cause.
Absolutely. Yeah, no question. Well, dude, I love you. Thank you.
Too, bro.
Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
Keep sending those texts that annoy me. Okay, how's your mental?
Yep.
I'll keep responding. I appreciate you, bro.
Love you, bro.
Love you too, man.